I think the top Ask Reddit post right now is like, considering that the original Olympics were done in the nude, what would be the most awkward event right now in modern day?
Exactly what I was thinking.
I'm definitely going with duet ice skating.
The top two that I like busted and got laughing at were the male pommel horse and the and the two-man luge.
The other one that I thought was funny was the the hurdles. Male hurdles, track and field.
My dad used to do hurdles. Help. My mind.
Just thinking of Paul Pulaski's junk dragging. Just
dragging?
Oh,
no, he cleared it. He cleared it.
But if he didn't have clothes on, his big
that's how high
Johnson.
he jumped. That's how high he jumped.
Wow.
That's right.
All right, now that we have some quality B-roll.
Wake up, everybody. Today is Thursday, July 22nd. We are Never Free to Play, a podcast where we talk about the new Valve Steam Deck and only the new Valve Steam Deck. I'm one of your hosts, Karch Palashi, joined by my co-host, Sean Mybers, and the second best beer to grace this podcast, Jason Wright. If you decide you like us and love the Steam Deck as much as we do, subscribe to us on YouTube and podcast services, or find us on Twitter where we're at Never Free to Play. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, feedback, please send it to us at neverfreetoplay@gmail.com. Jason, I'm going to go ahead and assume you put that in there about the second best beer. Is that right?
I forgot about that. I did that last week.
I did not read that. Caught me off guard.
Well, you called Dr. Roberts' beer the best.
I did, and I only read it because
I got the second.
I knew his name wasn't there. Like, my eyes did the quickest of darts. I was like, it doesn't say Robert, so this must be here on purpose.
It was.
So how are you, Jason?
I'm doing great. Nothing to report. It's been a couple weeks since we've done this, and really my life has just been pretty boring. Busy, but boring.
Right, I understand.
I do have a question for you. It actually is a listener question.
Oh,
got written in. Yep, yeah. It reads. I'm not gonna say the name, but I'll read the question.
Okay.
It reads like this. Dear Dad, why is Aristocats not on the kid profile of Disney Plus?
It's because all the cats are racist. If they're
is that
not
really
racist
why?
caricature, it is. It's like you know how Peter Pan. It's got like the questionable depictions of the Native Americans.
I'm sorry, the indigenous people.
Right. There's at least one cat, and it's in the picture I sent you. So this is from. There's like some article on Hardwire.
Hardtimes.net or Hardline.
Yeah, something like anyway, satire site. It's like the next Kingdom Hearts will feature all the racist cats from Aristocats. And if you've seen Aristocats, there is a scene where a bunch of like alley cats and they're all like jazzy and cool and hip and stuff. Well, one of them at the very least is a very racist caricature of a Chinese person. He's a Siamese cat.
And they play the drums.
And he literally goes like, and forgive me, like ching chong ching wing wong wing, basically.
Yeah.
Like no joke, straight up. And so they went ahead and shoved that over into the adult profile, in case kids just stumble upon that and someone's like, why is my child being taught?
Well,
but this is a legitimate question.
Over there?
What?
Did they put Lady and the Tramp over there? Because those cats are way more racist, in my opinion.
You know what? I think the cartoon is on the kids one, and I think the live action is on the adults one, which doesn't make any sense to me because it's benign. It's a really tame movie. The live action Lady and the Tramp. It's pretty good too. No, my daughter actually asked me because she has control to get to the kids profile. She knows that's hers, so she goes to it, and then she'll like, Daddy, I can't find Aristocats. I'm like, well, you spelled it wrong because you're stupid. And then it turns out she spelled it right enough anyway.
Good starting assumption.
Yeah, exactly. And then I always
all my work
like,
interactions.
Yeah, that's right. It shouldn't be allowed on the. Well, I don't know. I still think that was probably going too far in my. Keep Peter Pan over there. That's fine. I think Aristocats is fine. They are just.
I mean, I agree, and I think you can have the disclaimer. I mean, it's like I don't want to get into political. I don't want to get into a political discussion, but this is almost in the vein of like the critical race theory of like having a discussion of like, okay, this was more socially accepted back then. It's not really cool. It's a part of the movie though. I mean, I don't know. Well,
that's why they put it on the other one.
I would say 99% of the movie is great.
There is a drunk goose too. Like it just
but the drunk goose is hilarious.
He is
hilarious.
It's not racist. It's not racist, but he is drunk. So anyway, Sean, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Kind of like Jason, I haven't got a lot of gaming in the last couple of weeks, much to my chagrin. But I am fairly close to making what might be a very monumental purchase, which is my wife wants to get a second TV and mount it above the first TV in our living room.
Yeah.
Wow, you are living the
But
dream.
why? Tell us why.
So she can play the Switch or watch TV on one TV, and I can play the Xbox because we like to play. We both like to play video games, but right now, like I'm coming upstairs and sitting in the office. But we like to play video games and just sit next to each other and be in the same room, so we can interact if we want to. And so we're trying to get back to that. But she obviously the Switch can go in handheld, but she likes playing the Switch on the TV. So I am currently in the market to get another 55-inch 4K TV.
Wow.
So this is going to lead to more gaming. This is the solution to your problem you just mentioned a moment ago.
Possibly.
Here's a question for you, Sean.
Yep.
Okay, in theory, I assume you have a TV existing today in there.
Yeah, I have a Sony 55-inch 4K smart TV.
So let's assume that the newer one's going to be a little bit nicer. First of all, which one goes on top and which one goes on bottom? Second of all, who gets the nicer TV?
My wife gets whichever one goes on the bottom.
Okay, that's
So that
fair.
means the
And
nicer one
so
goes
that'll
on
be the
top.
discussion.
You have to take the better TV because you have the better hardware. It's just how the rules.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah, but I mean, as long as it's 4K, it's not going to make a. I mean, let's face it, I'm running a Series S anyway, so I've got upscale. I can upscale to 4K. I can't natively run 4K.
Well, I will just say I believe in your ability to deconflict this situation.
nice.
Housekeeping! Like, sub, follow. Sometimes we stream. Sometimes we podcast. Sometimes we get lazy and we don't do anything. But you can always find us at Never Free to Play on Twitter and then search Never Free to Play on YouTube. You know what? Shout out to Crimson Karma. That dude is he is top-notch fan. Love that guy.
We do.
Yes, we do.
Terrible
That's all I
at
had.
communicating with him, on my part at least. I know Sean does his best to communicate with comments, but I'm so bad at it.
Well, I'll apologize on your behalf.
I'm apologizing right now on my own behalf.
I'm apologizing on his behalf, Crimson.
Takes twice the apologies.
We do have a ton of videos, I feel like, that came out since the last time we did this.
Yeah.
So I don't want to name them all, but it's a lot of Final Fantasy VII, and Sean and his wife are hilarious, and then it's a lot of Chrono Trigger, and I really enjoyed the beginning of the first one, and I apologize, Karch, because I haven't had time to do, I feel like, anything I wanted to do, which includes watching our own content, so.
I have enjoyed all of Chrono Trigger thus far.
You're a better
great.
friend.
It's been fun playing it. Yeah, and then I think the only other thing worth mentioning is that we have the I'm pretty sure we haven't recorded since we did this one. It was the spoiler cast for Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yep, that's the last thing we did.
Yeah, we have that, and then there's also a Deep Rock Galactic video of
That was really funny.
birthday stream of Sean and me playing.
Of Sean desperately trying to keep Jason alive and be like, nope, not doing it.
It's good times.
It's great times. All right, we're going to get into the show. The show this week, no, we're not going to talk about what we've been playing, because really it's just me. But we also want to actually go play some games. So after this, we're going to stream, or at least record, maybe attempt to stream Resident Evil 8 Village. But real quick, I just want to brag about all the games I've beaten. July alone. And
I'm not
that
going
is...
to talk about the games, but I'm better than these guys.
Exactly. Castlevania Circle of the Moon for the Game Boy Advance. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for the Super Nintendo.
That doesn't count.
Yeah, it does. Why doesn't it count?
That's a hard game.
It's not hard. It's just a side scroller beat 'em up. It's a terror. It's like the worst one I've ever played too.
I had to pick a game to say it doesn't count, and I knew that was the worst of the batch. So
Fair enough. All right, we'll strike it from the record. Still got 4. Metroid Zero Mission, in under 5 hours. Final Fantasy IV, the complete edition. Not that that matters. And then Mass Effect 2. I just finished that yesterday, and I do want to talk. I want to swing back around to that in a future episode because it's worth talking about. Because I started real. Go ahead.
I will be very interested to hear how your final mission went.
Well, I may get to that. I may not. It is a spoiler territory if Jason ever wants to get to it. So we'll see.
No, but yeah, you and I will have to talk at some point.
High level, spoiler free. It went well. I'll say that it went quite
right.
well.
Fair enough.
And that was with me not knowing anything about how. I mean, I knew it. I knew that choices affected things, and choices in the mission affected things, and I knew it could go poorly based on all those factors. And I was surprised at how well it went, not knowing the details.
Nice.
But yeah, great game. Started off real cold on it. By the end, I was like, wow, this is a really special game. So much so that I just jumped right into Mass Effect 3. Couldn't get to Ratchet and Clank, even though I bought it like Saturday. I was like, oh, I'll play it after Mass Effect 2. No, it's going on the shelf. Yeah, beat all those games.
I can't wait to mooch so hard on you on PS5
man.
stuff
Just
when
come
I
and get
eventually get one.
Just come and get it. But I'll talk more about some of those next time when we talk about emulation, and we just have more time to talk about them. But yeah, there was big news, big console news. Some people knew about this rumor, but for the most part, it was pretty hush hush, or people were just kind of dismissive of it because, why wouldn't you be? I would be dismissive of it, and I don't blame anybody for being so. But Valve announced a brand new piece of hardware, a console of sorts, a handheld really, that can also act like a console. Kind of some kind of hybrid thing. What?
Act like a PC.
Yeah, exactly. The Valve, I almost call it the Index. That's their that's their VR stuff. No, this is what is the Steam Deck? There it is. The Valve Steam Deck. It is a handheld gaming device that is actually just technically a PC with controller inputs, which is really cool. It is priced at $400, $530, and $650 for a 64 gigabyte, 256 gigabyte, and 512 gigabyte model, respectively. And we'll get into the slight differences of those in a bit with our hardware expert, Jason Wright. So just real quick, we don't get new hardware that often, and usually when we do, it's just kind of an iterative upgrade. Every now and then you get like a left curve, like the Switch, but you rarely get new hardware from a major player, especially from someone you wouldn't think was even getting into the console hardware game, like Steam, like Valve, I should say. So what do you think? Because I love it. I think it's really cool.
I think the coolest part about this is it's almost like a open source console.
Yes, true.
Because it's at the end of the day, it's a PC that they've crammed in and they've put controllers on and a screen on. But it's running that Steam OS 3, which Valve has come out
Proton.
and said, hey, that's free. We're gonna give that out to anyone who wants to make a similar style device. So they've essentially been like, this is a on the go handheld console that is also set up in the market to allow basically anyone to make their own version of it.
So cool. Jason, what do you think?
I am very, very excited about this. I love new hardware. I love portables. As the co-founder of Never Free to Play, I'm never free to play. And so portability is everything to me. I think this targets an interesting market segment. And a lot of the criticism that I've heard, just kind of skimming the internet, skimming Reddit, skimming YouTube videos, and listening to different people talk about it on podcasts, it is the criticism is, okay, so you're telling me you're targeting these hardcore PC fans. These are people who like fidelity. These are people who appreciate quality. They want resolution. They want high frames per second. But then you're giving them this portable device that just like, sure, it can play your entire Steam library on, but it can't. It can't do what a high-end PC can do. And your main marketing element is, hey, you could bring your whole Steam library on this. And the criticism is, well, who cares? Because these people are not going to want to do this on their couch when they could just go to their PC and play like they're used to playing.
Let's put a pin in that. I want to swing back around to that.
Pitch posh, man.
Yeah,
I say
posh,
those
for
people
sure.
are out of touch. They don't understand. I mean, these people are so in the industry that I don't think they can pry themselves away. This is what they do for a living. I don't think they can pry themselves away and understand like what it is for a real life person. Like the three of us, we are just like your prototypical gamers. Yeah. We grew up in the era where we've seen nearly every single console. We were born and gaming was a thing, and we've seen everything from Super Nintendo through today, right? And so like gaming is like within the fiber of our being. but we're real people. We have jobs, we have kids, we have families, we have obligations, right? So like to me this device really speaks to me, and I'm really excited about it. And someone who does gaming for a living, like of course they're going to want to play on their OLED TV or their nice PC setup or whatever, but like a lot of days I'm just so freaking tired from living life that I just want to lay in bed and play a AAA game, and this is amazing.
I second all that. And so, real quick, before we talk hardware specs, because I want to do that, get a little in depth on that, get your research out there. I will say this: that point makes no sense to me, because what has everybody been saying about the Switch for the last almost 5 years? It's amazing that I can have my PC over here and my Switch over here. I have the Nintendo, and I guess maybe the part of it is I have the Nintendo IPs. I don't know, but like, this isn't to replace your PC. It's for people who don't have one and don't want one, but then want a Steam library on the go. And it's for people who do have one and then like, sure, some people they're just not going to want it, and that's fine. But there's so many people out there who play indies on a Switch while owning a PC that can run all those indies. I'm one of them. I could buy them cheaper on my PC right now, almost every single time, and I don't. Sometimes earlier too, because they don't all come to Switch first. Like Death's Door. I really want to play Death's Door, but I'm not gonna. Because I don't want to pay for Xbox Game Pass right now, and I don't want to play it on my PC or stream it on my phone or anything like that. So Jason likes it, I like it, Sean's intrigued by it.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's hear some hardware specs.
Let's do it, man. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that is design. I know you said let's talk specs, but let's just talk design real quick.
Like ergonomics?
Ergonomics, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people complained about the placement of the thumbsticks and it being kind of like parallel with the face buttons on the same plane. I'm curious to get both of your input in that, and then I'll tell you kind of what I learned from watching people who've actually had like hands-on experience with it.
I think it looks weird. I'm told, and I think this is the source you're talking about, but I'm told by some on-hands experience that it doesn't feel weird, but I've never played anything like that. Not like even when the sticks have been
parallel. The Wii U's like that. The gamepad, the Wii U gamepad.
The sticks are parallel, but the face buttons aren't.
Okay.
They're not parallel with the sticks, that is. And that's the weird part. It's not even that they're so high up, it's that they're so close to, like, well, kind of so, because they're high up. Because one of the buttons literally looks like it's on the cusp of the curve, the bevel of the outside of the far right. And that's kind of strange. And the same thing with the D-pad on the other side. But it's just one of those things you don't know until you hold it. Which I probably never will. If I get one, I won't have held one first. It'll just be me hoping that it feels good in my hands. What do you think?
What about you, Sean?
So there's a couple things there. So yeah, the D-pad and the buttons are in a weird place, but there's those touchpad, scratch pads that I have no doubt can replicate those. It looks like it has for lack of a better term, paddles on the back.
It does, yeah.
That'll easily compensate for having now lived the paddle life with my Elite controller. Will easily compensate for those buttons. I have to believe that Valve has done their homework on this, and yeah, it looks weird, but so have a lot of controllers at a lot of different pieces of the industry, and there's not a lot of controllers that I would have ever said like, yeah, that's terrible in hindsight. They've all kind of worked.
That's true. There's no truly bad controller.
I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Good answer.
Yeah. So the criticism that I've heard, it's like what you guys said, that it's like in line, and that's just not how we have a convention of how controllers are designed, and everybody does it like this. And why have you gone against the grain? But to Valve's credit, the one thing that I've heard that's like on the positive side. First of all, if you think about the handhelds over the last 10 years, you think about PS Vita, you think about the Switch, think about maybe even the NVIDIA Shield, it's really got like a slate tablet-like design with no curvature. It's kind of hard to hold, especially for people with bigger hands, and it's like there's stamina to consider. This is a little thicker. Like they've kind of shirked the idea that these things have to be thinner and smaller. It's got this curvature to it, as if you're gripping something and holding on to something, which I find really appealing as someone who finds it difficult to, like the PS Vita, for instance, like I had to balance that on my pinkies.
I hate the Vita.
And then you're
Right.
for the Switch. If I played a Switch for a while in handheld, my pinkies go to like fall asleep.
Yeah.
Mine too.
I mean, imagine a controller. An Elite PS5 controller, which Sean, you got to handle, is a little bit bigger than a DualShock. I know the Pro controllers it's the arms, the handles that you hold. They're all kind of round and beefy. Like, and this would kind of mimic that. Unlike
right,
the
exactly.
other
It fills your hand.
Right, exactly.
And not only that, but I'm going to do something that I saw the guy on the shout out to Digital Foundry for their video on this. But one of the guys on there was like a super, like, has owned every single handheld ever. And if you think about, and I'm doing this on the video for the video watchers, but if you think about like the placement of your natural grip, your thumbs are kind of pointing up. And so it's not a lot of movement on your right thumb to move from a stick to a button. It's a really, really small shift. Versus if they were offset, you'd kind of have to contort your thumbs under the grip of your, under your grip. It's a little bit awkward if you're talking about a handheld. So I do think that they took the task on of trying to develop something that was comfortable to hold in a handheld form factor. So kudos to them for that.
Agreed.
I love the fact that it's got a gyro sensor in it, because I've played games on the Switch, like funny enough, Splatoon 2, which had gyro controls for aiming, and I found myself to be a lot more accurate to be able to, like, with my right thumbstick, put the kind of the aimer sight approximately where I wanted it to be, and then get really accurate with the tilt of the device. I think that's really cool. And then the fact that it's so customizable is just really, really neat. You're going to be able to run macros off of every button, off the back buttons, off the control.
Are the actual buttons in the back? Like Sean said, paddles. Is it like some kind of mechanical?
They're
button?
paddles.
The paddles.
They're
Okay. But it's not
paddles.
touch-
I mean,
it's not a touch thing, right?
No.
Okay.
They're physical buttons. Yeah.
Sweet.
They articulate. So all that's really cool. I know a lot of people rip on the design of it. They say it's chunky. They say it's kind of ugly. They say they don't like the placement of the buttons. But I think once people get it in their hands, it's going to feel natural.
Of course, you do have the aspect that it weighs about twice as much as the Switch does.
That's interesting, because the Switch isn't too heavy, but I feel like, every ounce afterward would start to feel heavy. So it's interesting that it weighs as much as it does. And I know it has to. I know you can't get away with it not weighing what it does. But it'll be like long-term playing sessions. Am I going to need to use this big belly of mine to prop up the console while I'm lying on my back in bed?
I do think some of the weight might be offset by your ability to grip.
That's true.
Oh yeah,
good point.
But that is probably the only thing when it comes to, because we're kind of talking the ergonomics of this thing at this point, that interests me is it's twice the weight of the Switch. So there is going to be where you might not have that fatigue because of the awkward way of holding it. You are going to have just a general fatigue from holding the weight of this thing out in front of you. Now it's still less than 1.5 pounds. So
right.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
And before we move on to internals, comes with a case. Nobody gives you a case anymore. It's amazing.
I didn't realize that. That's cool.
Comes with a case.
But no dock.
At least I thought it did.
It does.
The dock exists, but it is not sold with it.
And will not exist at launch.
The cool thing is you can...
No, but it can use any USB-C dock.
Right, no, I knew that, which is so cool. Like, that's fine by me, man. It's the Switch. It's the Switch Pro that we were promised.
You could put this thing, I saw them connected to a monitor and have a side-by-side, like the game on the left side of the screen and a browser like Google Chrome open on the right. So you could Google game stuff that I'm stuck at this point. Let me go look up a guide. If it's docked, you can do all that. I mean, that is cool.
That's pretty cool. All right, let's talk internals.
Okay, let's talk internals. So it's got a custom AMD APU, that stands for Accelerated Processing Unit, and it's essentially a combined CPU and GPU into one chip. So that that right there is it's kind of the similar idea to what the Switch runs. It's like a system on a chip, but it's newer, right? I mean, you're talking, this has not existed in any other device before. It's custom. It's not only custom, but it's Zen 2 architecture. So it is the newest, hottest, sexiest chip you can get. 4 hardware cores, support simultaneous multi-threading, which is the same as like hyper-threading, but that's an Intel, trademark. So you could do 8 threads, which is neat. It supports ray tracing. It supports variable ray tracing or ray shading. It's got a total combined power of 2 teraflops. So you got to talk about the teraflops.
Gotta talk about floppy.
The cool thing about that is it actually, in terms of raw power, puts you in the ballpark of Xbox One and PS4, except for those consoles target 1080p, 30 frames per second. With this much, much smaller 7-inch screen, only targeting 720p, you actually get better performance out of those 2 teraflops on this console than you would on the PS4 or the Xbox. So very, very smooth frame rates, even with current gen games that, running something like Cyberpunk, it's hard to do on an OG PS4, but when you dock it down to 720p, it actually might be a little bit smoother.
Well, and it has a benefit probably over the Xbox One because it's got 16 gigabytes of dedicated RAM.
Yep.
Whereas
and
the Xbox One used its RAM were both for its regular processing and for its graphics, which was a common problem bump that begins on the Xbox.
That's true, and I'm not sure. I don't have the inside scoop on the architecture. Can you share that RAM and make it so some of the newer systems, the way that they work is you can share that RAM between video and like processing. But this does have 16 gigabytes of quad channel LPDDR5 RAM. That's new. Most current gen they use DDR4. This DDR5 RAM has never been used in a gaming device to date. So this is really our first look at it. And it's just, it's a lot faster than the type of RAM that you're used to seeing. So it says that it has a higher memory bandwidth, and it's about 70% higher than dual channel DDR4. So you probably won't face any sort of bandwidth bottleneck on the GPU aspect of this, which I find just super interesting. It's just so exciting.
Something about the RAM that it was inferior than what you would normally see on a gaming rig because it was still designed to be more energy efficient. And so it wasn't a top tier RAM.
That might be true, but it's still new technology. So we'll just have to see how they integrate it.
Maybe it evens out.
And then I don't have much else to talk about in terms of the hardware. It supports RDNA 2 architecture on the chip, the APU, which is the same architecture used on the Xbox Series X and the PS5. And essentially, all you need to know about that is it's higher bandwidth, faster speeds, better performance per watt, and it enables things like ray tracing and that sort of thing that you just can't get with cheaper hardware. Do you want to talk about the model differences in the storage space?
Just tell us the difference between because we talked about size, but tell me the difference between what does NVMe offer over the other kind of SSD?
Okay, so your 64 gigabyte model is your base model. It's $399. That's going to be older SSD solid state drive technology. So while it's faster than say like a spinning disk, it's not as fast as NVMe. NVMe has a dedicated, at least on a standard PC, it's got a dedicated PCI lane for your storage. So you have like a direct line of communication with your processing unit, which you just don't get with the SSD. So it's just faster, faster access to that memory. And so the 64 gigabyte base model is your standard solid state drive. And then once you hit that 256, you have NVMe. Once you go up to the 512, not only do you get more storage, but you also get an anti-glare etched glass screen. So just nicer glass. It does have an SD card slot to expand storage. And this is rumored, and I don't know if it's confirmed, but people on Reddit have been saying there is an empty M.2 slot. And they confirmed that with an email via Gabe Newell himself. even if that's not true, they designed this device with repairability in mind. And so you can replace that M.2 drive yourself. If you say you bought the 256 one and then you say, screw it, I'm putting 2 gigs in here, in theory, you could do that. So I just think that's awesome. The fact that it runs SteamOS out of the box, but you can install any software on there that you want to. The fact that you can use mods, you can output to a monitor, you can use a mouse and keyboard. They're bringing in cloud saves that cross between your PC and your handheld device. You can suspend and resume one game at a time, like the Switch does.
I meant to find that out too.
Say what?
I had meant to find that out. Like how does suspend resume work? But if it's going to be like you expect it to work on a console, then that's awesome.
It's like you expect to do on a console, which surprisingly is very difficult. You cannot really suspend resume on a PC very well at all.
Right, but that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, but they're actually looking into doing suspend resume via the cloud so that you can suspend a game on your handheld. Like, now, this isn't implemented yet, and then pick it up on your PC.
Like Stadia. That was Stadia's promise, basically.
Yeah. So all in all, very, very cool device. I'm very excited to see how this all plays out. And just kind of in closing my thoughts about the hardware, to me, there have been other devices like this. And the guy on Digital Foundry said this, so I do have to credit him. They did a whole 2-hour video deep dive where they talked about this, and I listened to some of it. But there have been historically other devices to exist in this space, but typically you would get something akin to older hardware in a higher price range.
Much higher price.
What this gives you, so you're talking $800 plus
minimum
for stuff that's 4 years old. This, and you look at that and you say, okay, I can get this older hardware. I'm going to pay $800 for it. Screw it. I'm just getting a gaming laptop. To me, this is what that space is. It's why not just pay the $400, $500 and just say, I'm not going to get a gaming laptop. I have a laptop that's not super powerful, but it does everything else I want. And then I'm going to also have this thing. So to me, that's the chunk that you're going after. And I'm stoked.
Which has always been me. I've done the gaming PC thing, and I like it. I like having it. It's nice to have. But I've always been portable. I want to pick up and I like being able to move and play exactly where I want to play, wherever that is. And it's usually not at my computer desk. And so I've always liked gaming on my laptop when it was capable of doing it. And that was always because I liked gaming on my handhelds, if that was, the best place to play my games at the time anyway. And that, oh my gosh, let's talk about that price. That's crazy. That a loss, right? It has to be that, or Nintendo is just full of it.
It has to be a loss, and it has to be in order to get people into. They're hoping to make Steam sales, because that's the only reason too that they would offer up that Steam OS is free. They're just hoping to drive more people towards Steam sales.
Well, not only that, but they did mention specifically that they want other manufacturers to make similar devices.
Yeah,
and
we talked about that earlier.
Love it. So they made these Steam boxes, and they gave out the blueprints back in the day, and they said, "Here's SteamOS. Here's how you would do this." People come and make these, but they didn't make one. They didn't have a flagship. They didn't support it, and that device kind of failed. I think this is them righting the ship and saying, "Here's a reference device.
Yep,
come do this."
And as far as I've seen,
that's why it is. It's almost like they've created the first of almost an open source console.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing. It's what we've been harping on.
It's so weird. Because it's a PC,
right?
But it's a console. It is somewhere in between the two, which is perhaps the most kind of to me the most interesting part of all of this.
It's so cool.
Because
just gonna say. I forget.
I don't know. This is. I mean, and maybe it's. I don't think this. I'm sure people are going to start saying if this does well. Oh, is this how consoles die? It's no, because this is a console. It's just.
Yeah, this is
it's just a console done slightly differently.
Yep. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Jason, you had mentioned some negative responses, and I saw those too, especially on Reddit. But as far as my Twitter feed was concerned, nothing but positivity. Even the usual kind of safe, I don't know, or it's not really for me, or this is just sounds like a bad idea. None of it. Couldn't find it anywhere. The second it launched for pre-order, everyone's like, again, all day, it was like I was trying to get my pre-order. And let's talk about that pre-order. They did the thing that we begged Sony to do. They actually have a reservation list. It's not like a, we only had this many units and now the pre-orders are gone and you can still put your $5 on the table, put your quarter on the machine. It's going to take a while. They don't come out till December, period. And then the chip shortage stuff, I'm sure, is going to be a problem. But you're essentially reserving a model number in line. And I'm going to put my $5 down because at most, that's all I lose. And it goes back to Steam credit anyway. So it's like, it's really no loss at all. Too. I'm going to put my $5 down. And, if the cards are right in December, it probably won't be because we're too close to Christmas. Then I'll get one then. But, I can absolutely see myself getting this for myself for like my own birthday again next year, like I did the PS5 this year. I am getting this thing. Sooner or later, I am getting this thing. Probably sooner.
I have a question for both of you.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. How do you see this faring in, let's say, 5 years? Because the direction gaming is going, obviously Xbox has xCloud out there, and you could stream games on your phone, and Netflix is bringing cloud gaming to their platform. Does a portable device like this matter when we get to a point where game streaming is the new normal and you could easily do it on your devices you already own?
So I think this still has a place to exist, and part of that is just because of the fact that the internet and streaming, basically the internet and Wi-Fi and cell service infrastructure of the United States is not up to it. I go back and think about where was did the Switch do me the most good outside of a deployment, because that's kind of its own little unique thing for me. But it was on my commute on like a metro where I don't have access to good Wi-Fi or anything. I'd have to be relying on data to stream, and that's just not going to work. You're still going to need something that can download stuff.
And to your point, to continue your point, Sean, even in-home Wi-Fi sucks. Like unless you've got like great service, like a great internet provider service, like Jason with his what is it? What do you got? Gigabit?
Yeah, I have gigabit from AT&T, but I mean, my wireless isn't
exactly.
the best.
So even with that, and even with an amazing wireless connection, anything beyond a certain kind of like paced game is gonna suck. It just is for the most part. I don't know. Maybe they'll overcome your crappy Wi-Fi signal and then, fix it on their end, so to speak. And I have, I've used the streaming service on my phone. It worked really well. But it was small stuff, it was, what's that cool card game? Slay the Spire. And it still lagged every now and then. And it's just like, that's not going to cut it for a lot of people. I'm not necessarily one of those people. I'm very long-suffering, but I know a lot of people aren't. Jason's not very long-suffering. He's not going to put up with laggy stuff most of the time. He likes it as an option, but he doesn't want it as his main way of playing.
Yeah.
Not in its current state anyway.
Well,
and so, I agree.
I mean, think about you go to a hotel, like,
you
want to deal with that right now? You just download the game to this, and it's perfect.
And no one wants to pay for a separate, like, 4G plan for a gaming device. That didn't work for the Vita. It's not going to work for anything else, really.
Yep.
I mean, I can't say for the future of gaming. I'm not good at that kind of stuff. I'll be playing it, and like, I think, considering how they kind of knocked it out of the park, I think this was a ace marketing move. The way they announced it on the day of the Switch OLED pre-order.
That was sick.
They had the IGN hands-on locked and ready to go with like really good games marketing on it. I think you wrote it down. It was Control, Hades, and then I saw Stardew, which is so funny.
Kudos to Hades and Control marketing teams.
Yeah.
I don't know what they
and
did.
Stardew.
But they were
like, how does he? He's on every
promo. Yeah.
So like, I think that, and then of course again, all the positive reception. The way they handled the only problem people had with the pre-ordering was just because there were so many. The traffic was huge, and so of course people were getting like weird errors and getting kicked out and stuff like that. But it wasn't an actual, availability problem. Again, they are going to have physical availability issues as far as shipping and chips and all that, but it's just probably going to be such a nicer way of handling that wait, knowing like it's coming. I can be patient because I know it's coming.
Yeah, I know I'm going to get mine.
And so I think that all of this creates an incredibly positive start, and that creates momentum. And of course, momentum is what carries you into the future. So in 5 years, don't know what it looks like, but this will have been a success. Let's say that. The Steam Deck will have been a success in 5 years. And now there might be 20 different Steam Decks from other companies.
I hope.
Honestly,
I hope so. I'm an early adopter. I had a Sega Game Gear. I had a PlayStation VR Gen 1. Like, I had an Oculus Rift S. I don't mind being an early adopter. It can be a lot of fun if you know what you're getting yourself into, and this is something I'm definitely willing to go out on a limb and support.
Nintendo. What does this make you feel about Nintendo? How does this compare to the Switch? Nintendo? Let's talk about Nintendo and how does it make you mad? It makes me a little mad at Nintendo seeing this. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then I look over at Nintendo and I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing selling this $350 device at this day and age?
Well, there's a few things there, which is one, this is 4 years old, the Switch, at the end of the day. And two, Nintendo has always pretty much made it a habit that they're not going to take a loss on their consoles.
But why? It seems arbitrary. Doesn't it seem arbitrary in a society?
Everything about Nintendo seems arbitrary.
Oh, but it makes me so mad!
I know, and especially with the devices that have such a high attach rate. They would definitely make that money back. There's no reason why they have to be like they are.
It's the culture of that company.
It is, man.
Like that's.
I think they'd have an even higher attach rate if you could play AAA games competitively with the PlayStation and the Xbox.
Because people always say, "Oh, Nintendo, they didn't come to the Wii U. They didn't." And people like to say that was a marketing snafu, and I don't know, maybe it was. I don't know a lot about marketing, but I don't like to believe that you can bungle it so hard that that's the reason, the sole reason that your console sells the worst out of any of them ever. It is the worst selling Nintendo console because it was barely better than a Wii. It was still underpowered than its competitors, which were just about to release. Like the Switch came out early enough so that when the PS5 and Xbox Series X launched, it wasn't as big a deal. And those consoles are still just getting off the ground. There's really not a lot to drive you towards all that, big $70 purchases.
And the portability. I mean, the portability.
On top of it, it's amazing. It's
in addition
so
to dropping, Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey when they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was great. And I will always love the Switch for portability. But now, here, let me ask this, because I've been considering it strongly. Because I only have so much money to go around. And I can't keep convincing Rachel, yeah, it's fine. I can just keep buying all these consoles and I'll upgrade my PC too. I gotta stop somewhere. I can't keep buying Chinese knockoff Game Boy Advances and stuff. Is this enough theoretically to make you choose it over Switch 2? They go to hybrid console route again. You're gonna have to say goodbye to the Nintendo IPs. But what you get is an enormous library and cheaper games. Switch has got indies too, but they're always full price. Always. And for a while. And of course, Nintendo games are always full price forever. So does this make you think, maybe I don't need a Switch. Maybe I can say goodbye to Nintendo?
Me personally, for Luke's sake, no, because...
Sure.
All we ever play are Nintendo IP games together. Mario Kart. We beat Bowser's Fury. We beat Super Mario 3D World. We are almost close to beating New Super Mario Brothers Wii U that they re-released on the Switch. So, for me, no. I'll always, at least for the foreseeable future, I'll want to have that because that's a bonding thing for us. And I have so much nostalgia tied. But I'm not putting myself in a position where I have to pick because I have no self-control and I will get both.
Fair enough.
But
Sean?
what I will say is I'm fine with the Switch being Luke's exclusively and then me not having one and then this being mine. I'm okay with.
Okay.
I'm in a weird position with the Steam Deck because yeah, I've been interested in buying a PC, and obviously I'm in the worst time in history to try to do that, so I haven't bought one because I want to get in the high-end PC realm. And this, while good is a high-end PC, it is not. And I've got a Switch, so it's not going to fill a niche for me that it doesn't cover anything for me. but also it's an impressive piece of hardware, and like on the face of it, I should rather have this than the Switch, except for the fact that like I got the Switch and it got me back into playing Nintendo games after being gone for a while, and it reminded me how much fun I could have with games, and it's like I don't know if I want to give that up. So like I'm stuck in nostalgia. Nintendo has me stuck in nostalgia, and I know it.
They really got us.
Because from a technophobe just wanting to be able to play games and ease of playing games, I should be all over the Steam Deck. But like I can see it. It's like I should want this. I should want this more than my Switch. But Legend of Zelda, guys.
Legend of Zelda, guys.
It's like
a great game.
I'm almost getting angry at this.
We all know Breath of the Wild 2 is not coming out until the Switch 2, so
No, it's coming out.
I know.
Switch
I just
2.
messed
No,
with
you're
you. What
right.
about you, Karch?
It's the same argument with Sean, but even more so on the side of the Steam Deck. I have tasted not the best that gaming PC can offer, but I know what that looks like. I can imagine it because I've come close to it. And it's just not for me. I don't need it. And if this sucker can play Game Pass, RetroArch, which is RetroArch is an app that basically comes preloaded with all the emulators, all of them, every single one of them, except for like Dolphin, like basically PS1 and down, but all the handhelds and everything before it. And so that's available on Steam. You're not even going to have to hack this thing, quote unquote, hack it. You're not going to have to install Windows to turn this into an emulation paradise. And I love that. It's just going to offer me so much. It's going to have
plus
those track
you can
pads.
plug it into your monitor and still
Exactly.
game with me.
If I have to game with you guys, with Game Pass games eventually, because that's coming.
Like it can be your PC.
Yeah.
Like there's a part of me that like if this thing can play Skyrim as with mods as well as my Series S can, but it won't have the mod caps. It's like, okay, maybe this is the way that I open up that way, and then I have my little darling Indian machine, and then when I go on patrols, I can leave Katie to Switch, and I'll take the Steam Deck with me instead.
There you go.
And then I'll still be able to play maybe I exist in a world because of Game Pass where I own this and the Switch instead of owning the Switch and an Xbox.
That's an interesting take. Yeah, that's possible because
I hadn't thought about
Xbox doesn't offer you. You're not on Xbox for first party IP. Not at least not at this moment, and you haven't been.
But
for a
Game
little
Pass would give me the first party IP.
Exactly, even better.
Yeah.
And of course,
I
Microsoft doesn't
get
care.
your point. I get your point. Yeah.
But you're not tethered to that console for anything.
So that's the thing is if this can play.
In theory, I don't see why you couldn't install Android on this and then use the Game Pass app.
Well, there's so many.
But
There's gonna be
also,
so many ways to do it.
You could just play in the browser. It's a PC. You could just play Game Pass in the browser.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Like this is going to have Game Pass day one, just because you'll be able to. I read the couple of the IGN articles, and Valve was repeatedly like, this can do everything a PC can do.
Yeah.
Like, so you can load a browser and load Game Pass. Game Pass day one on this thing.
And
you're hearing it here first, folks, because I have not heard that anywhere. Never Free to Play says that
if Game Pass is available on a browser, and this can load a browser,
and the browser supported, yeah, that's all it takes.
By the transitive property,
there you go. Mathematicians proved it.
It'll take notes. Microsoft won't care. They're like, yeah, we'll put it on there. It's fine. As long as you're not trying to take our cut of anything.
It's more people subscribing to Game Pass.
People. They will love to be on. They would love to be on the Switch and the PS5 again. As long as they said, just let us put it on there, and don't bother us. That's not going to happen with Sony and Nintendo though. But no, Sean, you raise a great point. Do I keep my Switch and get rid of my PS5? And the answer for me is an unequivocal no. I can't give up God of War. I can't give up. Day one Final Fantasy VII Remake, because eventually it would come to other systems, but I'm not waiting. There are too many amazing first-party titles on the PS5, but now I'm starting to think of a world where my PS5 is actually the lodestone around my neck, and I'm like, you and your stupid first party, I don't want you anymore. But then I'd have two handhelds, and that feels weird too.
I know.
What a conundrum.
What a conundrum. But yeah, I'm excited about it.
The game has changed.
The game and that's the most fun. The game has changed, and I'm mad at Nintendo, but I just want to see them do better. I hope they do for the Switch 2, because the Switch 2 will be better than this, and probably reasonably priced as well. If the Switch 2, whatever the next major iteration of Nintendo's hardware isn't much better than the Steam Deck, I'm going to have problems. That's going to be the biggest, like, no, I can't handle it. Like, Mario's great, Zelda's great. I'm sorry, but I'm not paying for this anymore when I could pay for this over here and still have...
You know, the Nintendo uses an AMD chip, right?
No, it's the Tegra.
Is that not AMD?
I could have sworn that was NVIDIA.
Hold on, we can cut this out. Well, anyway, my point is that I see no reason why the Switch couldn't basically use the same exact chipset.
I don't either, but Nintendo, like Sean said, they don't do loss leaders. They just don't do it.
Yeah, but the Switch 2 isn't coming out for 2 years, so then they might...
think of the Switch, man. Think of how far behind. Like, it was a little bit more ahead than the Wii U was of, its previous thing. But, like, it was only 2 years before, well, a little more than 2 years. But I don't know, man. I wouldn't put it past them. It wouldn't surprise me. It would infuriate me, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Switch 2 was still, like, behind the PS5, in some ways, if not all ways. And I won't be able to jive with that because I'll have because I play the Switch for a lot of lo-fi games, and I'm holding out to play Advance Wars, $60 version, because that's really all it is. It's just a $60 version of Advance Wars that I can have online play with. I've got it on my Retro Pocket. I can go play it right now if I want to. And I've almost done it like 20 times in the last couple of weeks. But I'm like, no, wait. Because I'm going to get it on Switch and I might as well wait. I don't blow my load yet. But I don't know. I don't want to end on a downer because this is exciting. And it should spur up the industry in a way that the Switch did, but didn't.
Well, this is almost the outcome of the Switch, isn't it?
I agree.
I guess that's true. I guess the Switch finally did it.
We are getting this because of the Switch.
It just took a little longer than I thought it would.
Yeah.
Gabe Newell in his interview with IGN said that more than anything, they wanted to price this thing to be competitive in the mobile space, but quality was first. But more than anything, they wanted to test extending the PC market in this direction. So
Brilliant.
I think exactly what you said, both of you, is that this is honestly like the outcome of the Switch. So I guess we have Nintendo to thank for that.
So I'm super excited to see what this does for Sony, who has been... Xbox is just going to keep putting their app on things. That's clearly their goal. That's what they want.
That's where they're going.
So there's no mystery there. But what's Sony going to do? Are they going to stay the course, or are they going to try for Vita 2?
And this is something that they brought up on Sacred Symbols, but I can't imagine a world in which Sony puts out a new handheld that has exclusive games to the handheld. Anything they put out in the handheld market has to be able to at least play PS4 games, if not be like play games that are contemporaneous with its release, because that's what everyone else is doing. So
That's true.
Like,
which means they need to get their streaming game on point.
Yeah. I see no world in which a new handheld device doesn't play everything. Like, I can't imagine Nintendo releasing like a new Game Boy that doesn't play every other. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Unless it's like the Switch 2, it's all the portability. Like the Switch, it's like a Switch Lite, but it's only handheld, and then they do make a console. That would be weird. That would be really weird. I don't know how you go backwards from this, whether they want to or not. I don't think you can. Yeah. All right. That's good.
All right. Well, that was awesome. You want me to close us out?
Any last words, Sean?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Close us out, Jason.
I'm conflicted and have decisions I have to make now.
We can talk about it on the stream because we're about to stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, hey, I love is the closing on here? Here we go. Later, Skater. I love this podcast. I love video games, and I love you two lovely NFers. You all have a fantastic week. We will try, but we are never free to play.
Street Deck rules!